What do you call a fake spaghetti? An impasta. Welcome to another Young and Breadless video. I'm Cameron Fritsch. Today we're going to be making two different styles of pasta. I make a cassava pasta and a spaghetti squash pasta. For the spaghetti squash, I already preheated the oven to 400 degrees. Cut the spaghetti squash in half. Bake it for around 40 minutes or until you can start pulling the strands out of it. Needed to fetch a knife out of my knife kit from school. Spaghetti squash is fun. I'm gonna put a little wet napkin under my tiny cutting board. I'm gonna try to cut along the center. And in doing so, you want to get all the seeds and other crap out of there. And with the spaghetti squash, you really only need like olive oil and salt and pepper. Just like a little drizzle. So I always do this top side up, and then we'll finish flipping them after like 30 minutes. I'm gonna start getting on this pasta. I'm gonna set my cutting board aside because I don't need that right now. And I'm gonna take around, let's see what's left. It's like about a cup. Okay. So this isn't your typical Italian grandmother pasta. Cassava is basically a root vegetable that is native to Africa. It has great, it's a great source of carbohydrates. That's a complex carbohydrate. It's a good alternative if you're on the paleo diet, which I was and still am for another 14 days. And so with this 1 cup of flour, I'm gonna do like 3 eggs. And then I usually like to take a fork. And you can pre-scramble these before, it doesn't really matter, it all goes together somehow. Mix it so that there's little clumps that form. Once those clumps form, I like to add a little bit of olive oil to further stick it together. Right. I'm gonna go in with some oil. Like a tablespoon and a half. Now I'm gonna go in with my hands. And with this, because it has no gluten development, you don't have to let it rest like a normal pasta. This you literally can just cut out and make your pasta. Now will it all come together? Sometimes. Sometimes not. Because this is also gluten-free, which I already mentioned, but still pertinent to the pasta making process. Pertinent to the pasta making process. Now, a healthy serving of this is usually around 4 ounces, and so I actually have a food scale to measure that out. If you don't have a food scale, it's totally fine. You just kind of eyeball it. It's usually like around the size of your palm, and then you also want like half your plate to be vegetables, and so with this, I usually make like a mushroom pasta or spinach and kale and a bunch of other greens. This is fully combined and hydrated. So we have a little dough ball. Get a pot of water. Salt it so that it tastes like the ocean. Put that salted water on the stove. So how you're gonna wanna cut your gnocchis is you're gonna wanna break this ball up into about 4. I use a regular butter knife because Nothing else has worked for me. I've tried bench scrapers and stuff like that, and for some reason the butter knife just does it better. I just like to form it until it's like in a log almost. Maybe like the size of like your thumb. Or you can make them smaller or however you want them, but this is just how I make the cassava gnocchi. Boil your gnocchi. Our gnocchis are floating, and so we're gonna take them off. So this is totally in real time, but I usually do a brown butter sage gnocchi. Here I'm using vegan butter and some sage, some nutritional yeast, some salt, some herbs, and a little bit of garlic. Tossing that up in there until it's golden brown and crispy on the edges. And by the time this is done, you could probably pull out your spaghetti squash and pick out the strands. Make sure it's cooled, otherwise it will turn into mush ahead of time. And you can start distributing this into meal prep containers, and then boom, meat sauce. And the final product is the gnocchi, and there you go. 2 ways to have pasta in a week.